Hopefully it's going to work. Hi, Chris. You're right.
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me this evening.
No, thank you for having me.
So, just for everybody that's joined at the moment, you are Otis Simpson Music, of course, singer, songwriter, and also working in the sports industry at Red Strike.
That's correct. Yeah.
And also, just so that viewers can know, the last time I saw you, I was interviewing you because you just released your single Army, which is fantastic. I want to hear about how that's gone and everything. But it was a very different world then, wasn't it? Like, it was Valentine's weekend, we were expecting bustling streets, and now the world's a different place.
It's just so weird, isn't it? You couldn't have imagined this was going to happen. But I mean, the effect it's just had on everything, every type of industry, from live sports, live music, and of course, the most important thing, the health industry, and the fact that everyone's got their health is the most important thing. And I think it's put a magnifying glass on what's important, really, when you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto it, but I've noticed, like, being at home and, you know, stripping back all like the stresses of life, you really start to appreciate what's important, don't you?
You do. I think it's going to change, like, work-life balance in general.
Yeah.
In every type of industry, I think companies are starting to realise that, first of all, their actual employees can be productive from home. So office and property groups are potentially going to struggle a little bit in the next 10 years, possibly. Yes. I mean, I don't know. I'm not expert in that area. I'm just looking at the backlash it could have. But the money that these companies and corporates could save on these office spaces is huge. And
definitely,
whether you like it or not, COVID has demonstrated the industry can survive and will survive.
Yeah, for sure, which is a really positive note. So tell me a bit about what you've been getting up to since the last week, because obviously Army was released. That went down an absolute treat. Just tell me a bit about how that's been from then up until now, like what's been going on in terms of that.
I'll tell you what, it's been nearly a year now. So I released Army in February 2019. And then since then, so much has changed. So I suppose when I released it, it got a great reception, which I was really, really pleased about. And just before I released it, I was already talking to a few of the record labels. So there was a little bit of a buzz. They kind of knew what was going to happen, but they wanted to see what was going to happen with Army and how I suppose, as you said, the public were going to receive it. So when it came out, I was delighted that people liked it, first of all, and the producers involved kind of gave it a push from their end. And off the back of that, I basically got invited in to see quite a few of the labels. So without going into details, I met with like a few of the big majors. So Sony Universal kind of called me in, and I met with Columbia and just had introduction chats, as it were, kind of to sit down and talk about it. And my album's actually written. So I've kind of, from where I am, I've got a really good, big focus and idea of what I want to do with my music and kind of where I want to go with it, which is both a very good thing. I think it's a good thing, but also potentially a difficult thing for a label or someone wanting to come in and change everything. But I think if you've got a vision, you've got to stick with it. In my opinion, those are like the big artists. That's what they've always done. Like, you look at someone like Amy Winehouse or Prince or any of these game changers, they didn't really compromise. In my opinion, I think they did what they wanted to do, and people bought into it because it was real. And in this day and age in the music industry, it's changed so much because everything is, well, a lot of it is now based on statistics and streaming numbers and big data, which I do appreciate. And of course, you have to go off that because that is an indicator of how successful something is going to be. But therefore, it also potentially detracts from some fantastic art being made by musicians that may never get heard. So
so like the real identity of the artist, and that's what it's all about, right? It's about, you know, your creativity and how you want to express yourself to the world. So you've got
to find, I've always said, you've got to find a team that really believes in what you're doing, because and obviously you want to make sure they've got industry connections, because that's how you're going to get through at the end of the day. You need to make sure someone can plug you, get you this label support, get this management support. But that all starts with building a team. And I suppose the biggest takeaway of this year is I finally got a fantastic management team that do believe in what I'm doing, which is a bit of a relief for me, because it means I don't have to have those awkward conversations anymore when I'm knocking on doors and asking for favors and kind of asking for that studio time. but no, it's fantastic. So now the next stage is we've got our next single lined up. It's actually been produced by Johnny Coffer. So he's the guy who did Rag and Bone Man's Skin.
Yes.
And he's currently working in the studio with Alicia Keys and various other artists. And he's produced it to a level, and now we're kind of taking it. I don't want to say the label just in case nothing happens. But, it looks like I'm chatting absolute rubbish. We've taken it to this label, and they've kind of said, yeah, we like this one. We're going to give it a bit of a push, a bit of a marketing, bit of marketing support. So that is hopefully going to be August, September time when that's coming out.
Very, very exciting indeed. And like Army was a fantastic song. It is a fantastic song. I absolutely loved it. So I have no doubt that your next lot of music is going to be equally as strong. And that was one thing that really stood out to me about Army, was that it was so polished. It was really strong. Like even the message within the song was like that. Is that what we can expect for the rest of the album? Will it have that message about, you know, your strength and...
I'll tell you what, yeah, every song will have a message to it. Army, I think, is definitely the most out and out soul track, if that makes sense. I kind of wanted to release a track that basically was a statement and said, I'm a soul artist. And from there, you can kind of diversify it a little bit. And if you want to remix and do some house music or whatever, you've always got that foundation point where people say, no, we know where he started from. It was authentic. It was soul music. Yeah. But the next single that's coming out is, once again, it has an important background meaning to it. It actually kind of, it's not going to ruin it by me telling you the single name, because there's a video of me out there singing an acoustic version already. So it's a song called Living with Monsters, and it's basically like, I think we can all identify with it, whether or not you've suffered from mental health issues or whatever. Everyone's got those niggling doubts or just anxiety or general worries that you think about, and they're kind of the monsters, and it's living with monsters. So without going too deep and soppy into it all, it's basically just, it's more of a ballad than Army. But it's kind of that. It's more of a reflective track that hopefully everyone will like.
I'm like very confident they will. I mean, personally, I think your music is great, but also, you know, it's quite, it's, you know, with everything that's going on, you know, mental health is really, everybody needs to be aware of it at the moment, because we're all locked in. You know, it's a breeding ground for worry and stress. And well, for me anyway, music is like my go-to release. Like I will always listen to music if I need to, you know, de-stress or like gather my thoughts. So I think, you know, releasing music like that has that sort of message is really actually quite helpful to people, especially during this time. So definitely looking forward to it. So I was reading a quote the other day, which is all about creatives. And it was basically saying, I've got it here, in order to be open to creativity, one must have the capacity for constructive use of solitude. Okay, so I thought this was really interesting, and this is by a psychologist called Rollo May. And I want to know, like, what is your perfect environment for being creative? Is lockdown great for you right now? Is the solitude of lockdown great, or does it make it a bit harder?
Hard question. I tell you what, I quite like my own company. So from that point of view, it hasn't affected me too much, because I think on the one hand, you can really concentrate and get into something. And I'll be the first to put my hand up and admit it. Whilst I can sing and I enjoy doing that, I don't think I'm the most musically gifted person when it comes to playing an instrument. Right. So what I've tried to do out of this lockdown, and once again, this isn't one of those things where I'm saying, oh, it's great, use lockdown as an excuse to go learn a new skill, because I think that's nonsense. If someone wants to take lockdown and just take it as a time to refresh, do that. Yeah, but,
definitely.
But I've taken like this chance to get an acoustic guitar, because I thought, you know what, I'm never going to have a better chance than this to actually sit down, have some time, not being distracted, going out to the pub and watching the football or whatever. I'm actually going to try and learn a skill. So from that point of view, I've just kind of been learning, I suppose, taking what I already had from my songwriting experience and applying that writing with an instrument. And whereas before I would write with the piano, or I'd write with my co-writer John Coffer, and he's a really, really talented guitarist. I mean, so much respect for what he does, and he's absolutely brilliant there. So he's kind of influenced me there to go away and learn how to do it. So in answer to your question, I've gone around in a massive circle. yes, I think solitude is a good thing, but
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the individual. It depends on who you are and how you write. There are so many talented producers and songwriters out there who do their best work in collaboration.
Yeah.
And once again, there are so many artists who do their best work in solitude. So I think it's totally personal. For me, I'd say I've done my best work in collaboration. So
okay, interesting. Yeah.
So time will tell whether this is going to be any good, or I'm going to come out and we're going to sit down in a meeting in however months' time when we're allowed out of this. I'm going to play them something, and they're going to go, "Yeah, that was a waste of time." Throw the guitar away. But,
and you'll say, "I wish I could have gotten out of the house sooner. That might have helped."
Maybe I should have bought a trumpet instead. Do you know what I mean? But,
yeah. Okay, no, that's really interesting. I mean, your point about collaborating, yeah, there are some people who prefer to collaborate and they work better in that way. And I guess, you know, to the point of this psychologist, some people like to be in solitude. I mean, personally, I've found myself being quite productive in lockdown, I think, because I tend to be quite busy anyway. So sometimes for me, it's quite good to actually have that focus and, like, you know, being forced to stay indoors type thing. So you mentioned as well, sort of getting in touch with different labels during lockdown. And I guess, like, to other artists out there, maybe ones who are, you know, starting up, they're in earlier days than you, what would be your best advice? Is it a good time to reach out to record labels or try and push your music out? What's your view on that?
I think if you've got a plan and you've got your music and you're really happy with the music you've got, I think before reaching out to the labels, try and build a bit of a following, or try and build a little bit of a team around you who are going to support and push it. So the reason I reached out to the labels and I kind of got that initial instinct, so I want to give him a shout out. I don't know if he's listening or not. There's a fantastic guy, booking agent now. He works for Insanity Records, and he works for Loco Talent. They're on there, a guy called Jack Ryan. And I met Jack about a year ago when I was about to release Army. And he really like heard the music and was like, I want to work with you, I want to do something. And at this time he wasn't with Insanity and Loco. He was doing his own thing as an independent A&R, and he had a lot of these contacts.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I just at the time set up my company Rainmaker Entertainment, which is what I used to release Army on. It's just it's a label.
Yeah.
And he said, can I work with this? I really believe it. I want to be the A&R director. And I said, yeah, you know what, mate? I'd bite my hand off to have that opportunity. And I said, the fact you believe in me like that, of course. So he really introduced me to quite a few of the A&Rs and walked me through the doors there. But I feel fortunate that I had him. But if I hadn't have had that opportunity, what I would have done is I would have studied social media probably a little bit more. And this is actually me talking in hindsight as well. This is what I'm doing now. And I am going to mention something, which is a kind of an initiative I've got on the go as well, about this. But to an artist now, I would advise study social media, Facebook ads, targeting, because if you build your following there, you can make money independently now as an artist. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't made any money independently as an artist, but you can do it. And the reason I haven't implemented these strategies yet is because I've been waiting for this next single to do it. And I've been working on this separate project that I'll tell you about in a minute. But yeah, my advice to artists right now, get the music right. Don't rush it, because the music industry and people are always going to want new music. So there is no rush. I don't think age is a barrier anymore. I don't think that if you look at record labels, you may have said back in the 90s or early 2000s, they're only signing people under 25, and you need to fit in these categories and sound like this. Yeah. Which I just don't think is true anymore. I think Spotify and distributors like AWOL and Believe, TuneCore, Empire, all these labels and distributors have given you the tools to release your music. So if you can get that traction on social media, you can blow it up yourself and do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
I think the signal went
about
in sometimes with that. Sorry, say that again.
So about this initiative, I want to give a shout out to a new company called Local Artists, and you can follow them on Instagram, to anyone who's listening right now. Okay. And it's a company that I'm getting involved with that essentially is going to be a digital music manager for upcoming artists. and it's going to be a platform, a website, and an app, and it's going to offer people courses on how to market their music. So the two guys, and I apologise for plugging everyone, but I want to make sure everyone gets their shouts out.
No, go for it. Yeah, go
two
for it.
guys that I'm doing it with, they're good friends. I've known them for a while, but they came up with the idea. So Jack Gallagher, really talented filmmaker and graphic designer. In his background, he's worked with YouTube and done partnerships there, so he has a really good understanding of kind of the social media model and how to. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. He understands how to like leverage the social media side. And then Jake Pace, who's the other director of the company, right. He's got really good business kind of understanding, comes from that background. So the two of them are a dream team. And I suppose kind of my background in the music industry and the sports, the commercial side of things, it was a natural match for us all. But
okay,
really,
so and just remind me, so it's local artists. Would you, Otis, mind putting that in the comment box so that people can see what the social media handle is for them to go to? And if there's a website, pop it in there as well.
Well, the website is currently being built as we speak. So that's not up and running just yet.
Yeah. And so just to recap, so they will help artists to promote themselves better on social and online.
So what it's going to be an online platform. So there's going to be an app as well as a website that artists can download. There's going to be social media courses on it, which will take you from zero right the way through to helping you do a strategy and a plan to release.
That's fantastic.
And it's almost a cheat sheet in a way for artists to have, and it's tried and tested method. So Jack, who's one of the directors there and previously done partnership with YouTube and worked with various artists as a consultant. He's using all of his techniques that are proven to get 2 million X impressions. He's written this course, and then Jake has taken his knowledge of marketing and business and essentially written this cheat sheet and book, and we're kind of working with an OTT app platform designer to get this out there. So artists can download the app, get on this, they can share and exchange marketing tips with each other, and also create a community for their music. So we're hoping it will blow up and be quite popular as an educational tool, but also a community. And then off the back of it, down the line, we're going to introduce a gig feature where artists can meet up and almost book their own agencies and have their own parties. So it's going to be really cool. Well, I'm saying that. Yeah, it might be really cool. I'm going to tell you it's going to be really cool. I'm involved in it, but I think it could be potentially huge, and there's no one really in this area at the moment right now doing it. And I believe it could be massive, so I'm hoping it will be.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. And I think, like you say, being an artist it can be a struggle in terms of making money, but as you've quite rightly said, part of it is your image and getting yourself out there, promoting it correctly. So I think, this will be a huge help to artists who need that, because they're generally, I think artists are probably not really thinking about that. They just want to create great music. They want to get their identity in the music or whatever it is they're doing. So very exciting. So it's called Local Artists.
Local Artists, at _local artists_, and it's there on Instagram right now. And they're going to be getting a Twitter up shortly, and the website is going to be www.localartists.com, I believe. I apologise if I've got that wrong, Jack and Jake. But yeah, it will be up and running soon. But I would start following them now, because we're going to be basically giving out free content. We really, the most important thing is community. We want to create a space for upcoming artists to get on there. And actually, if you implement the strategies that we put up, you will have success. It works. You have to put the effort in, but your return will be there.
And just remind me, so what exactly is your involvement? Are you going to be using the platform yourself, or?
Yeah, I'll be using the platform myself, but I'll also be kind of working in a director role and helping the commercial element of it. And I'll get onto how I'll be doing that with business development, and through my experience with sport, how I'll be leveraging those contacts and kind of utilizing that network to make sure it gets into the right spaces. Because what's really important nowadays on mobile applications and websites is you understand how to utilize big data behind it and leverage that to get commercial sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah.
So say, for example, your artists, you've got 20, I'm just using this randomly, 80% of the artists who sign up to use the local artist app are with EE, the mobile telephone provider. As an app developer and an owner of an app, you can see that, and you can then go to EE and say, 80% of our users are with you. Would you like to have targeted advertisements on our app? But you're going to have to obviously pay for that advertising space.
Yeah.
And this is a very, very basic kind of understanding and how they kind of do it now in big data and sponsorship.
Yeah.
So 8 times out of 10, EE will say, yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks for providing us with that information. We can see that obviously this is a great opportunity for us. Yeah, we'll pay you a little bit of targeted advertising space on your app where you've hopefully got thousands of users. Then again, if they turn you down, you can then go to Vodafone and say, all our people are at EE, but this is your chance to still market and get footfall. And they'll eventually, one of these guys will come on board. So it's just another way of maximizing and making sure that you've got commercial support there. And really, the most important thing about it for LAs isn't, it's not to make money, it's to make sure that the app can continue to run. And that's where the commercial and sponsorship money will come from.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to have the income to, keep the business rolling. Yeah. Well, I have to say, it sounds like a very, very exciting, business that's going to be there for artists. And I can't wait to see how it all pans out, to be honest. So you said that it's probably, when do you think that the website will be up and ready to go? Do you know?
I don't know. I think maybe a month, but it might be 2 weeks. It might be even sooner. I'm going to say a month to be safe, but I would say follow the Instagram because it will tell you when it's up. And if anyone's listening from local artists and you want to tell me in the comments when it's going to be up, I'll say.
Yes, do it. And and don't forget, follow @_local artists _. Oh, there we go. We've got a comment from local artists.
Dave.
So there we go. Everybody watching, give them a follow. Yeah. Okay, so I guess the next part of this is I want to hear about what you've been doing in the sports industry. So you and I are fairly similar in that we sort of have, I don't know, double lives. I work full time as well in PR and social, but then do presenting and DJing. And just like you have this full-time role in the sports industry as well as doing your singing. Tell me about the sports industry. You said that you're working on something really exciting, which is a government digital passport, which you're going to have to tell me about because sounds very interesting.
So as well as the music, my full-time day-to-day job, I work for a sports consultancy called Red Strike. And the simplest way to explain what we are and what we do, I don't know whether anyone's familiar with CAA or IMG or any of these kind of big sports corporates. But we're a boutique of those. And what Red Strike do is we represent and consult for clubs, federations, and rights holders in the sports industry and tell them how to, I suppose, maximize their profits and help them commercialize their assets.
Yeah.
So that sounds like an absolute load of nonsense, but the way kind of COVID-19 has affected our clients in sports has been huge because obviously all the live industry has been shut off.
Yeah.
So a lot of these sports clubs are struggling. So when you see a lot of these athletes and players getting pressure from the government saying, oh, they need to pay X amount or they're getting taxed, it can be harsh on quite a few of them because unless you're in that 1% at the top who is a Premiership footballer, the rest of them, even though they're on TV or they're doing this, are in quite similar boats to the majority of us who are working day to day. So it can be a struggle.
Yeah, well, actually, I've seen a couple of headlines, articles saying that certain clubs, the players they won't accept pay cuts. So what's your view on that? Even despite the fact that the clubs are really struggling at the moment, just like every other business. What is your view on that?
To be honest, I think they should accept pay cuts. It's a no-brainer. Like, I think everyone should who can. Yeah. Probably accept it. I apologise for moving, by the way. I didn't realise my phone battery was going to go so low.
Okay, this is the beauty of being in lockdown, right? You get to see everybody's houses.
Oh, that's it. Well, I live in one room, you see. It's kind of like a big studio. It's quite cool, but
yeah, it is very cool.
But yeah, okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, no. Everyone should take a pay cut if they possibly can. I think footballers or athletes who are making ridiculous amounts of money, or even if you're making a comfortable living, I think they need to be sensitive to it. So if you're a Premier League footballer and you haven't taken a pay cut, quite frankly, you're a bit of a dick, in my opinion. I think the majority. Am I allowed to say that? I apologise if I'm not.
Yeah, no, of course you can say that. Like, yeah, it's your opinion, and I tend to agree. Really, I think most businesses are having to make these cuts. So why should footballers be exempt? I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go on. So tell us more about the sports industry and Red Stripe.
So yeah, within Red Strike at the moment, like we're working. Our main areas of business are football, rugby, golf, and motorsports. They're kind of the 4 sports that we see the most of our business areas of operation. And I'm more, I say specialised, but I'm more involved in the football and golf side of things.
Yeah.
So in the football world, we help clients find commercial opportunity, whether it's sponsorship or endorsement. So if we're working with a club, for example, we might be looking for a front of shirt sponsor or stadium naming rights. And that's kind of where the big data comes into play now, because a lot of these clubs won't move on a sponsorship deal unless they can see how many insights they're going to get, how many clicks, etc., and how that's going to be converted into return on investment. Because if they spend, I don't know, £350,000 on a back of shirt sponsorship for a championship club, they want to make sure they're going to make that back.
Yeah.
In the time frame they've done the deal for. Or if they're not going to make it back, they need to make sure it's worth their while if they're a company who's starting out.
Yeah.
And it's going to give them something. So for us, I suppose what I've seen just in my short time being there, in a year and 6 months or however long it's been, I've seen sponsorship change from almost a relationship basis, where before you could be a commercial director with years of experience and just a black book. You can give someone a call and say, oh, you're working for X brand, I'm doing a deal for Watford FC. I'm just using Watford because Vibe FM's based there. But we're doing a deal for Watford FC, and you're the commercial director of Debenhams. We're best friends. Do you want to sponsor Debenhams? We're friends. That's how it previously would have worked. Nowadays,
it's more about the result.
It's all about the numbers, and they need to make sure that it's going to get signed off.
Yeah, of course.
And it's all the optics have moved online and to different social media platforms now, because Sky and BT and all of these other huge TV broadcasters can actually provide the data to tell you how many people are watching, and what's going on. But related to that, the Premier League, in the next 3 years, I wouldn't be surprised to see them have their own TV and broadcasting network and set that up. Because I think nowadays the capability to have your own OTT streaming platform is huge. And for the Premier League, why would they sell the rights of their viewing when they can just have it themselves? So I think from that point of view, sports is going to change hugely. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I think actually most industries, and especially, with lockdown happening, with everything that's happened, we were discussing before how, this situation has proven to us that businesses can still run with people working from home. But it also means that people want to see more live streaming. They want to see more businesses with their own channel. So yeah, definitely, I agree. And I think that this situation will speed up that process as well, which is exciting. If we can take a positive from lockdown and coronavirus, it's that the world is changing in lots of there are some good things happening.
Yeah, I think so. I think what it's caused every industry to do is kind of reassess and realign their strategies to well, you have to. You've got to cope and you've got to survive. So arguably, lockdown has caused it's evolution, I suppose. Everyone's had to evolve and move forward, and that's probably for the good, ultimately, in certain industries, because it's caused disruption. Whenever there's disruption and change, there's always going to be people who profit, but unfortunately, there's always going to be people who do suffer. So I think it's a double-edged sword. You got to be careful how you look at it. Some people are going to do really well out of it, and some people aren't. So I think that's the reality of it. But you mentioned before we were doing something with a digital health passport, and I should definitely mention that.
Yes, definitely tell me what that is about, because it sounds extremely interesting.
So the digital health passport, Red Strike have recently partnered with a company called VST Enterprises, which was set up by a very, 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 very clever guy called Lewis James Davies, who's won Tech Entrepreneur of the Year. And I apologize, Lewis, if you ever watched this and I got that wrong. But he set up this company. Essentially, VCode is, and what the digital health passport is going to be a passport that can hope, a bit like the passport you got now, that's going to be an app on your phone that you can use to get live sports and live events and people, any type of thing, any type of event with a massive group of people.
Yeah.
They can show this health passport and show that basically you're healthy and you haven't got the symptoms of COVID-19, or you haven't had them for at least 14 days or whatever. And that's hopefully going to be able to revolutionize sports and start up live sports again. So at this stage, where we're at is we've spoken to government through Red Strike, and it's being supported by the Home Office. They like the idea and they're having conversations about how they can implement it in the UK. But similarly, in other countries, I believe we've now spoken to 21 countries around the world where it's being rolled out. And I think millions of these health passports, or the patent has been ordered for it, which is fantastic. So,
wow.
So yeah, it's really exciting.
So let me just get this straight. So you would potentially need, say if you want, is this for if you want to go and watch a game and you want to go to the stadium physically, people would need their health passport just so that this public place, the stadium, isn't ever contaminated with somebody who might be ill.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it's going. It is exciting. It's also, some people will say it's a bit scary because it's a bit
It's a bit like Black Mirror.
It's exactly like Black Mirror.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, I did think that. I was like, this is quite big brothery, but I think it's necessary now, because it would be irresponsible for the government or any governing body in football or sports or any live music event to allow people in masses to go to it, especially when we're seeing the rates of illness that we're seeing at the moment. So there has to be a solution. And we were fortunate that we had this relationship with VST Enterprises, who made the digital health passport. So in the UK, I can say that we've had very positive conversations with the Premier League, the FA, the rugby governing body, a lot of the stables who, for example, do Cheltenham or these big races are listening to kind of what we're saying, and they see it as a solution. So at this stage, there's going to be sample tests that are very small clubs or small sporting events will take it, and it will be analysed by government to see how successful it can be. And then I think it'll be rolled out. But I mean, it's going to be difficult to say when I think live sports will come back. From my insight and kind of from seeing what's going on internally, I think you could be looking at August.
Yeah, July. I saw that the FA Cup final is penciled in for August. So, but it's penciled in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I knew that. You know more than I do about that. I'm just going to say, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, if you didn't know that, your guess was already August. So, yeah, interesting. So August is actually a very exciting time for you in terms of what you do in sports, but also you said that your album is likely to be coming out around.
It'll be the single will come out then.
The single will come out then. Okay. And all right. So when will the album be out? We will know this.
So once, okay, these are kind of behind the scenes things now.
So we can't give us too much information away.
No. I'd love the album to come out in August. But realistically, the way we kind of discussing the deal with the label is they want to see how the single reacts with a budget behind it.
Yeah. And
then there's an option to extend for the whole album. So I think the way we want to release it anyway is to probably do 3 singles from August to November. August to February, we'll release 3 singles over that time with a budget. And then by this time, February next year, I think there'll be enough of a, hopefully the music will be blown up, playing on the main radio by then. It'll be known, there'll be a proper strategy behind it. And that's when we can either press the button and say, okay, we want an album deal, or we'll say, you know what, we've made a big enough buzz that we can do this independently, and we don't need an album deal to do it. And a lot of the big artists nowadays that you listen to are independent. So if you've got the tools yourself, you don't need the label behind you. What labels tend to do nowadays, and what they're very, very good at, is taking a well-known artist or a big product that people know, and then packaging the music, marketing it and promoting it so that all the pre-existing fans can see the music coming through, and of course they commercialize it and they make revenue off it. But what they don't do, what they don't do as much as they used to do anymore, is take artists from nothing and develop them. So
which is
a lot of it is a shame, but I think it's a massive shame. But of course, the music industry has to survive, like any industry. It evolves, and I think it's just if you follow the money, you'll see that's where the money is right now. They can only focus on the established artists because that's how they make their bread and butter.
Yeah.
But it has opened up other opportunities for companies and artist development companies to kind of slot in that space, which is what a lot of these distributors are doing. Like AWAL, for example, which is AWAL, Artists Without a Label, or Believe, which is another distributor, or TuneCore, or whoever you choose to upload your music to. They do sometimes sign artists on smaller deals, whereby they might give you a bit of marketing budget for 2-3 songs, see how they do, and then you can either choose, if you blow up, you don't need a label behind you because you're famous, people know who you are. So you put a song out, and you spend, I don't know, a small amount of money on producing it, but you're going to get loads of millions of people listening to it, so you're making profit. You don't need to sign a label.
Yeah. Now, just on the topic of these smaller artists, people who are starting from scratch, they're doing it all on their own. You know, they may have had a couple of gigs that were coming up, and obviously to an artist who's starting from scratch, that is so essential to get themselves out there, you know, be playing gigs out in the real world. And now lockdown's happened. So this is, you know, this could be really quite daunting for a lot of these artists who are doing it all by themselves. So what would be your advice during this time for them? Would you say, you know, what would be your advice in terms of getting themselves out there?
I would actually say use this time to hone your skills and practice, because everyone's in the same boat. So no one can go out and gig right now. So no one's getting further ahead of you by doing that. They're not getting more exposure by going out to do it. This is the time where you can really practice what you're doing as an artist and get better at it. Because when you do go out, the amount of people that have been practicing and honing their skills, the quality of live music's only going to go up. And I envision. So you want to make sure you're ready to go when they do. But then on the other hand, if you are confident in what you're doing and you think you're ready, why not go live on Instagram and pre-arrange gig timings?
So you're a full-on fan for that? Because that was going to be my next question. Do you believe in the whole getting yourself on your Instagram lives and doing your show, or setting up the YouTube channel? Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're confident in what you're doing and you're happy to go out there live, and you know that you're ready to go and you've got the experience doing it, I think do it. There's no harm in that. And actually you can start building your fan base that way. You might not be able to release the music you want in the studio format, but all I would say is as long as you're happy and you think it's the best you can perform live, do it. You don't want to go live and make mistakes and look amateurish, because I'm not saying that when you start out, it's going to be amateurish anyway, but you don't want to. People nowadays are so quick to judge, especially in social media. So
100%.
You want to retain that audience, and you want to make sure you would do something you're proud of.
Yeah. So Otis, do you think that you are going to do any live performances on social media? Because this is something that I would very much look forward to. Are you planning any?
There's been discussions to do it. When I perform, I normally do it with an acoustic guitarist with me. So because we're in lockdown, we're working out how we can do that. Whether we do that live on a Zoom call and then we broadcast that, or you do it over an Instagram live. But my answer is most likely yes. But I will advertise that as and when. There's no. There's no.
So you heard it here first. Otis is going to be doing some live streams of his music, which is very exciting. But keep an eye on Otis Simpson Music, your Instagram handle.
That's correct. Yeah.
Some information. Exciting. Okay, I just want to draw your attention to a comment that has come through. This looks like somebody who is at university with you, Mr. Leicestershire. He said,
That's
so
correct.
Glad to see you never gave up on your dreams. You spoke about at university, Otis. Much love. Sorry, I've read that completely weird, but you got the point. So he said,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so we actually, we're actually on the boxing society together, and I've got a confession. I actually never went to the boxing gym ever. I just did it because they had the best socials, and I think it backed me up. And I kind of just joined in and started going to socials with them every single week. I even went on the boxing tour at the end of the year. It was fantastic. But yeah, it was just a big.
University is a great time, isn't it? Is that where you really started everything with your music? Is that how you got into it and realised that you could sing, that you had a talent?
I tell you, I've always wanted to be a singer, and I've been doing it since school. So I like even probably about how old are you in year 10? However old you years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna,
15?
yeah, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago it was, but it was a while back. But since then, I've just kind of known that's where I really want to go, and that's my ambition for it.
Mm-hmm.
And but university was where I suppose I met one of the first producers I was collaborating with, and had a bit of luck and a bit of success, and that's where BBC Introducing picked up on a track, and I was no way ready for it because it was the first track we sent in. I didn't think they were going to pick it. And at the time, BBC Introducing in Nottingham had quite a lot of heat on them because they just pulled through Jake Bugg, and they were getting quite a lot of. I think the BBC in general were just championing them because they were saying, okay, BBC London and BBC Hertfordshire have been doing really well, so let's give Nottingham their time. And I was fortunate to be there in the right place at the right time. So within a space of 2 weeks of sending the song in, I got called in to do a session with them, and then it got 100,000 views on YouTube, which I wasn't ready for because we've just done the one song. And then off the back of that, kind of, I got, after I left university, that's actually how I got my first management company.
Right.
All off the back of this one song that I wasn't ready to release at the time. So it's kind of, but that gave me my first insight into it. So in answer to your question, and I went the long way around the mountain, yes, university was where it kicked off.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I mean, university is definitely a place for sort of figuring out your different interests and, you know, talents and everything.
Yeah, good to see I put that criminology degree to good use.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I studied English at uni, but I do think that that's come in handy for everything that I've done. So I suppose I'm quite lucky there. But so many people go to uni and do a course, and then they don't actually end up working in that sort of area at all, do they?
Yeah, no, I tell you, I think it gives you discipline, doesn't it? I think that's what uni's for. It's almost like a trial run at a job. Like,
and learning how to make your own dinners, right?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, can you not spend all your money at once? And
the biggest test of all, I have to say. All right, so I don't think there's any real questions that have come through. I suppose if anybody wanted to put a question in, they can. But we'll do sort of a little roundup of what we were chatting about. So, you know, pressing play on creativity in lockdown. You've obviously been doing that. You know, working on your next single and also the album, which is super exciting. The single will be out in August.
Yeah, which seems like a long time away, but hopefully not.
You want it to be right though, don't you? And you want to.
Yeah, I think you only get to go once with these things, like, and then once the music's out there, it's out there forever. Yeah. And you want to make sure there's a proper plan behind it. And for me, I'm just happy that we've now got kind of a label with a budget who's going to support it and push it.
Yeah.
And this song's been written for probably about 2 years. It's been kind of sitting there and got produced up by various producers in different stages. And then when Johnny Coffer kind of got involved, and he's a really established producer and didn't have to do it. But he kind of believed in the vision of what we were doing. And then that came through my co-writer, John, who's with New Crowd Music. He's been there from the start. So it's kind of like you have to have patience. You have to just believe something's going to happen, even when there's no indicator of something happening. And like some days, even after I met all these record labels, you sit there going, "Oh, what's going to happen now?" Like, nothing materialized. You didn't get the deal then.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it ever going to happen for you? But you can't think like that. You've got to think positively, because at the end of the day, you can't beat someone, or you can't rule someone up who refuses to give up.
Well,
because eventually they'll get it.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I went to the BBC Introducing event that we actually both met at. I watched the manager of the 1975, you know, the band 1975, talking on stage about when he first met the 1975, and he was explaining how in the early days all of the other record labels said no to them, and for years and years and years they were just being rejected and rejected, but they didn't give up, and that was key. And then they finally met him, who did believe in them, the manager, and he spent then a further 5 years trying to get them in somewhere, and eventually they found the record label and they went absolutely huge, and they are who they are today, the 1975. And I just thought that that story was really inspirational, because as you have just said, it's very easy to, you know, when you get knockbacks and you think, right, well, there's no point, I'm obviously not it. But it's not true. Don't give up. Don't give up is definitely a good tip.
Like, look, music is so opinion based, I think, and the way I look at it, like, even it can be exhausting getting knocked back, especially when you go meet a very established manager, or you go meet a label and they're like, you've talked to them for months over email or text, and they come to your gigs and they kind of woo you a little bit, and they take you out for dinner or whatever. You go in for meeting after meeting, and then something after all of that, nothing happens, and it can get exhausting, because you go from, what I'll always say about music, or in the music industry, is there's so many highs and so many lows. It's a journey. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it can be exhausting. But you just have to believe in your craft, because the way I look at it, if all these people who have had great success are showing interest, but they're not committing, that doesn't mean my music's not good enough.
Yeah.
It means they haven't got the time to do it then. Or they all hate me, which is a problem, and I need to work on something. But
need to be more likable.
Yeah, more likable or something. But you just got to believe in what you're doing. It's like footballers as well. The ones who work the hardest go through. And I mean, I've seen that firsthand as well, from working kind of in the sports industry and seeing it. It's not necessarily the most talented players with the flair and who are running up and down and doing a million keepy up. It's the ones who get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and train all day.
And they're dedicated. They're dedicated. They believe in what they do, and they don't give up. Yeah, definitely. We've just had a question come through, so I'm going to read it to you. Has the lockdown helped with songwriting and music inspiration, or has it had an opposite effect and lost motivation, similar to most at the moment in many industries? So we sort of touched on this earlier, I guess, but yeah,
I think. Thank you for the question, Grant. I think it has been quite a positive thing for me, because as I said before, I'll first admit, I don't think I'm the most musically talented person when it comes to playing an instrument, but it's kind of allowed me to give me a bit more time to focus, and I got myself an acoustic guitar to play on it, and I'd like to think that I've written a few good songs on it that I wouldn't have normally written in the style of, because if I was writing to piano before I was collaborating with someone, we'd have had quite a clear plan of the song we want to make. And often when you go to the studio and there's a management or label involved, they'll give you a brief, and they'll say, we want a song that's slightly reflective of this, or goes down this route, or you kind of come up with it in your head. But when I've been playing with the acoustic guitar, puts you in a different sort of mood or different zone to write something. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think it has been motivating. But then again, what's been hard to motivate yourself to do is the gigging side of thing. And that's true, because you said you can go live and you can do stuff, but you've got to make sure you're always practicing. And I haven't been practicing that much. I'm going to be honest.
Well, one request from me is, please get practicing, and please do a live stream as soon as you can, because we'd love to.
I assure you, if I do it live, it'll be ready. I'll be right for it. But I have to admit, I haven't been practicing loads.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, we said this before as well, this is a weird time for everybody. It's not even just the UK, it's the whole world. And if you want to take lockdown as a time to just recuperate and rest, then that's pretty okay. That's fine.
Well, I need to do some exercise though, honestly, Caroline. I got so lazy.
You've not been doing much then, I guess, from that.
I've been telling people I've been doing hit classes. It's a lie. I'm doing nothing. Well, I did some in the first week, but since then it's just been rubbish. Like I've tried. I really tried. But yeah, it's easier to eat, isn't it?
It is a lot easier to eat. And food is just fantastic. But what I've been doing actually is I got myself a mountain bike. I was one of those people, and I have been I've become like a serial cycler, and I've got
Right.
cycling gear and everything. But you know, on the topic of creativity, I
With the
have to
full
say,
lycra outfit and
yeah,
the
full
helmet.
on, like bright pink, bright turquoise. I look like a nutter, but it's all fun and games, right?
No,
But
no,
yeah.
I admire that. I think that's good. I think that's good.
But cheer people up when I'm riding past. But I have to say, like in terms of creativity, I do feel that once I've gone and done a cycle, I can come back to the house and feel so much more like revived. And that's when I sort of press play on creativity, is when I've sort of, you know, gone out, done that bit of exercise. So it's helpful. That would be a tip from me.
I think that's a good tip. I do like exercise. I'm a bit lazy. I need to get my arse in gear and do it. That's the truth.
You'll be fine. Well, look, I think I can't see any more questions coming through. So I reckon it's probably a good time to wrap up. So singles coming out in August, exciting.
August, yeah.
And also local artists.
Local artists.
Yeah. Is this
digital health? Yeah. So local artists, check out the website, follow them on Instagram, because if you're an artist, or even if you're just interested in social media marketing, there's going to be a lot of kind of golden nuggets on there that you can take and apply to your own business. Not that's come from me. I'm not an expert in that world, but Jack, who is involved, has years of experience working with YouTube and working with artists and kind of being basically amazing at marketing and graphic design. So he's giving you all of these expertise for nothing and hoping you just join the community that we're trying to create there. So
amazing work. So exciting times for that one as well. So local artists, singles coming out in August, and sports may be back on in August. I mean, we don't know, but we're hoping that
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed the digital health passport goes through. And if you're interested in following that story, please follow Red Strike Sports on Instagram. If you just type in Red Strike, TRIKE, not PE, because a lot of people think we're Red Stripe, the beer, but we're Red Strike. Because if you're kicking a ball, follow them, and you'll see all the information about this digital health passport.
Well, I tell you what, you could just, again, in the comments, if you put all of the different Instagram handles that you would like people to follow, that would be really, really helpful.
I will do that.
Thank you. So Red Strike, that's the sports one, and local artist is to help with marketing as an artist. Very exciting. Right, well, look, Otis, thank you so much for coming on this evening. It was really great to catch up with you again after a year from the previous interview that we did. And yeah, it sounds like a bright future. And stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you inviting me on. I hope I haven't bored too many people out there and they found it interesting. So.
No, definitely very interesting. Thanks so much, Otis.
No worries. Thank you, Caroline. Have a nice evening. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.